I'm Cameron Fink, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Aaru. The problem is that businesses make bad decisions. They rely on bad data. They are using surveys in order to validate, spending billions of dollars in the case of acquisitions or major product lines.
Why does strategy work take so long today? 3 very distinct reasons. One is you have to go out and actually talk to people and survey respondents. It takes weeks, if not months. The second is you dispatch your lieutenants to figure out what the heck the numbers mean afterwards. The third is figuring out what to ask in the first place. And you start to realize that multi-billion-dollar companies are making the most important decisions they can make by going like this.
Generally, the way we'll do investments is we'll hear about companies and then try to validate if an opportunity exists for them to go after. And so Enzo had done a bunch of work talking to a ton of different people in the industry.
After talking to a few Fortune 500 CMOs, one of the things that was most compelling was just that they thought 20 to 30% of their marketing budgets will ultimately go towards simulation over time. So when you hear figures like that, you kind of drop everything and be like, all right, we have to move forward with this investment.
This idea really came to our vision in October 2023, and it became the idea that we were just obsessed with. Everything was about, can we predict human behavior, right? Can we predict the future, essentially? And then we met John.
My first time meeting them was in Chicago. I believe with all of the money I had in my bank account, I booked a 2-way flight. I stayed over for a few days. I flew home. I tried to go back to school, and then I went to Chicago again 3 days later. I think 2 weeks later, we raised our first round. It's been Aaru ever since.
And so what our system is built to do is not just say, hey, you have these specific questions, you want to ask these specific people, let's go run a simulation. It's give us this super general business problem, like I need to mitigate churn to GLP-1 users from my alcohol brand. And it will determine exactly who we need to ask and exactly what to ask to solve that problem.
We take fundamentally a different philosophical approach, that we can predict behavior by measuring behavior. And so we look directly at real world sales results. We're looking at campaign click-through rates. We're looking at music streams, podcast listens, something where you have to invest time or money into getting something done, and thus we can measure that and train on that.
One of the first customers we ever got in CPG, we went into that first meeting after running a test to measure consumer preference of purchasing and ranked every single product they had on their website by SKU level, and had it perfectly ordered to sales results except for 2. And that was the way we first made our sale ever in consumer.
Aaru ran a study with Ernst & Young where they helped replicate the wealth management survey that EY runs every year. If you're to ask someone, are you likely to retain the same financial advisor as your parents? Over 80% of people say they will, when in practice, only 20 to 30% of people actually do. And Aaru is actually more accurate in their answer of this question, where they predicted that about 40% of people would retain the same financial advisor. So the really interesting learning was that for some questions, Aaru is actually more accurate than asking a human.
When I met Logan, I had already talked to a couple other folks and gotten super positive references, and more than any other investor I had spoken to, had a deep and innate knowledge of why he believed we were the winners in the space.
And I've been doing this, investing in tech companies, broadly speaking, for, 13 years or something. And there was very systematized ways of building companies. It feels like all of that, a lot of the lessons in the traditional playbooks have been thrown out. And it requires a first principles perspective of building that actually involves a level of naivety. I think actually being young, which they are, high energy, but also brilliant, is actually the right combination of the most successful founders I'm seeing of this era.
When we were first starting the business, computer hooked up to a Bluetooth speaker. If code failed when he was sleeping, it would actually blare an alarm. He would wake up and go fix it and then go back to bed.
What was it like waking up in the middle of the night?
Not good.
I think
Demoralizing.
When you talk to them, it almost seems delusional how big their ambitions are and the type of company that they want to build.
I tell you, I'm coming to you, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go predict the future. That's the oldest problem in the history of time. It's the oldest problem on the globe.
I said something that I was like, I think you guys have the potential to build a 20, 30, 40, $50 billion business. I think it was a little tongue-in-cheek when they said it, but it was like, well, why are you setting our sights so low?
Showing people things that they know that nobody else does without needing anything from them is magic. That's what we do at Aaru. Our jobs are to convince people that magic is real, and thankfully, due to the brilliant folks we have on our team, magic is. My first impression of meeting Logan was ramp guy. No, I'm just kidding.
We sort of looked at each other and we were like, I think we need to invest in that company.
What would their first impression be? Very handsome.
A funny story that I don't think we can tell here is taking John to the Knicks game.
Who has the best style out of the three founders?
Matt. Look at this guy. It's definitely Matt.
He was like, well, when COVID happened, my 6th grade class, I was like, I'm sorry, your what class?